Hello, everyone, and welcome to this branding webinar. This is Daniel Rex speaking. It's great to have you with us this afternoon or this morning, wherever you are around the world. As you've logged in, it's been fantastic to see people from Europe and Asia and all across North America and the Caribbean. So thank you for being here and welcome. I give you also the welcome from our International President, Pat Johnson, who is not able to be with us for this call, but extends her greetings and her thanks for your time. And especially thanks to those of you who are currently serving as district leaders. We know this is a very critical and busy time for you as we approach the end of the Toastmasters year, so thanks for joining us for these 90 minutes. We appreciate your role in this brand rollout and look forward to sharing much more about this with you tonight. This rebranding is a significant step forward in achieving the mission of Toastmasters. And as you know, a paraphrasing of the mission is to provide more and more people the opportunity to participate in the Toastmasters program. By creating a consistent global identity, we'll ignite our efforts to build clubs and increase membership. That'll help you as district leaders reach your goals. This consistency will inform our prospective members, give them a clearer picture of the organization as they contemplate joining Toastmasters, regardless of where they live around the world. Now, the rebrand is not a radical change, but it is a large enough change that it's going to take a concerted effort by all of us, by those of us at headquarters, by district leaders and club leaders as well. So we appreciate your time now and certainly your efforts as we go forward in implementing this branding process. During the next 90 minutes, we're going to share quite a bit of information with you. We'll start with an overview of branding, moving on to the reasons why the rebrand was necessary, and talk about some of the market research that was done along the way that informed us and talk to us about Toastmasters' place in the market, in the minds of our members, and almost more importantly, in the minds of our prospective members. We'll move on to review your role in the brand launch, the new Toastmasters brand position, and then we'll give you a look at the visual system, including the new logo. Please remember, however, that all the information that we're sharing with you tonight is not to be shared yet. You're getting an early look at this, and your discretion and confidentiality is appreciated. To maximize the impact of the rebrand, we're keeping these visual details under wrap until we get closer and we're ready to publicly release the images. And that will be on August 17th at the International Convention is the day that the official rebranding will be launched. Throughout this process, we've been very fortunate to work with a fantastic partner. In 2009, as we began this rebranding process, we selected a firm called Innovation Protocol in Los Angeles for a variety of reasons. One is that they're a fantastic organization. They've led some international rebrands, worked with companies like Microsoft and TiVo, and with Yahoo and eBay and other companies whose names you'd recognize. Another piece of their history and their present that they're accustomed to working with not-for-profit organizations. They understand how volunteers work and how Toastmasters functions around the world. Another aspect is that they're very familiar with Toastmasters. Sasha Strauss, the firm's founder, who's joining us tonight, has been a Toastmasters member for about 10 years. And in fact, all of the team members on their staff are encouraged to join Toastmasters. They recently formed a club. The club's doing extraordinarily well, and it's helped them have a better picture of our organization as they've worked through us through this process. I mentioned Sasha Strauss a moment ago. When he's not developing brand strategies, he's speaking somewhere around the world on the topic of branding, or he's teaching at the University of Southern California at the Annenberg School of Communication. Now, Sasha, as I mentioned, is with us tonight. He's going to lead us through the next portion of the presentation. We're going to talk about branding and its history. So, Sasha, welcome and take it away.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's an honor to be with all of you, and I'm excited to share this information. There's actually, Dan had mentioned, there's a couple parts to the presentation, but the first part of the presentation is really an opportunity for all of us to come to a common understanding what this branding thing is. I mean, as members of Toastmasters, we hold the story of the brand close to our hearts, but when we talk about a rebrand, what does that actually mean? Well, in order to get us all on the same page, I'm going to take you through that brief introduction I mentioned. And the best way to do this is just to share with you a quick definition. So you'll notice on the screen, it'll show up in just a second, a sentence. And in that sentence, the first line of that sentence is, a brand is an exclusive and desirable idea. And I want to point out two key words, exclusive and desirable. Exclusive means that we're telling a story that no one else can tell. And desirable means we're telling it in a way that the audience, the members that we hope to gain, are prepared to hear. An exclusive and desirable idea, though, that's what's so magical in all this. It doesn't matter if we're selling products or services or experiences. It doesn't matter what we're actually trying to market. What matters is that there's an exclusive and desirable idea associated with it. So I'll show you how this all comes to life, and then you'll see how this will apply to our Toastmasters organization. So what will ultimately happen if we do this really well? Three really cool things will transpire. In the end, a great brand is going to have power, and it's going to have power to do three things, like I mentioned. The first thing is to change perception. What does that mean? That means rather than people just thinking about us as, let's say, a public speaking organization, what do we really want them to think about us as? Okay, if we change their perception of us, then we can ultimately influence what organization they choose to partner with. As in, well, I really like what Toastmasters said. I like the experience at the meeting. Well, we'll ultimately influence what organization they prefer to join. Now, as we all know, long-term members, that once we join, we like to stay around. We become loyal. So if we come up with the right idea, if we explain the right idea, and it's exclusive and desirable, like I said, we really do think that we can change the perception of our organization and get it to a place where everyone prefers us, and then we can get those members we're all looking for. In order to achieve this objective, though, I need you to sort of go on a little journey with me. I'm going to share with you a whole bunch of examples, international examples to represent our international membership, of organizations that just took an idea and people ultimately preferred it. They created a preference for it. Let me give you a perfect example of this. As soon as this logo comes up on the screen, I bet you that 100% of the people on this call, even though we're from all over the world, 100% of the people on this call knew that this organization was called Nike. Even though there's no letters on the screen. It doesn't say Nike, which also should be pronounced Nike, right? It's kind of amazing that we all know what this symbol is supposed to imply. It's not even a beautiful piece of art at that, by the way, right? Couldn't we all sketch this right now? The reason why this is a significant story is because the idea that Nike sells is that with a little bit of inspiration, we can accomplish things. We can go out and just do it. So Nike's in the inspiration business. That's what they sell. It doesn't make a difference if they make running shoes or athletic clothing. What matters most is that when you see this, when you hear the organization's name, you get inspired. That's what they're selling. Let's take another look. This is a perfect example because Mercedes-Benz really is one of the first car companies, and it's really the most international. You can buy a Mercedes almost anywhere. And isn't it amazing that no one has ever asked what this Mercedes symbol is? Right? What is it? Is it a steering wheel or a peace sign? We don't know, but it actually doesn't matter. We don't know who Mercedes is or who Benz is. What matters, though, is that when we see this symbol, we think things. Maybe we think expensive, prestigious. We think that the driver might be educated. Whether your perception is bad or good, what matters most is that you're not thinking to yourself, oh, that's the safest, or that's the largest, or that's the heaviest. You say, when I see that, it means that the person driving it probably is wealthy. This concept, this experience is a part of everything that we do, whether we're buying cars or running shoes or deciding how we're going to entertain our children. There's nothing about this mouse that is special. It's not the funniest mouse. It's not the tallest mouse. It's not the oldest mouse. It's not the only cartoon mouse. But whatever it's been associated with, we think happy. We think magic. We know that watching the movies and going to the parks creates pleasure for us. And even though this mouse is not the funniest, or we don't understand how he can talk to ducks and dogs, we don't care because being adjacent to the story creates positive energy in our lives. That's why Disney is in the business of magic. That's why all that you ever hear from them is about magic. That's what they're selling. It's not their roller coasters or their T-shirts. I'll give you another really cool example. I was just in China 2 weeks ago, and I noticed something really interesting. There are statues of Ronald McDonald in front of nearly every McDonald's in China. Now, I think that we all know that the person in the clown costume is never really the same person twice. It's just whoever McDonald's paid to put that outfit on. We don't know who Ronald McDonald is. All we know is that they make a product, and that product is usually made up of hamburgers and French fries and kids' meals. But in China, what's amazing about the statue is that all of the shoulders, the paint on the shoulders of the statue is worn down, because people are actually putting their arm around the statue to take a picture, to tell their family and friends that they hated McDonald's. Now, just calculate for a second that McDonald's does not make the best tasting. They don't win any taste tests. They don't make the cheapest. Nothing about the food is about necessarily the ingredient. Why are people taking pictures with Ronald McDonald in China? Because they want to be associated with the idea of freedom, and Americana, and family, and happiness, all of the things that are embodied in the McDonald's brand. It's not about the French fries. It's about how it feels to be at McDonald's. That's why this works so well internationally. And to show you how well it works, we brought along a really interesting brand. You, of course, know who this is, but you have no idea why there's a bite taken out of the apple. You don't even know why it's called Apple. You don't know where Steve Jobs went to college or where he worked before. You don't even care that there's 1 million people who work for Apple in China in a factory making all of these technologies. 1 million people in a single factory. Even though you don't know any of those things about Apple, you respect this organization. You admire what they make, and you think that those things that they make are really pretty and innovative and cool. And in fact, people carry them around and do things on them that have nothing to do with creativity. They just feel creative because it's all happening on a Macintosh. You can see that this idea cannot be quantified. No one can prove that this is the best at anything, but it feels like it is. It not only feels like it is, people are willing to make lifelong commitments to that idea. That if I choose Apple, that means that I think different. I am not like everybody else. Even though think different is not a grammatically correct sentence, it should be think differently. These people said to themselves, my last name or where I come from or what I do professionally does not matter most. What matters most is this organization, that organization and I are alike. Look at all of us as Toastmasters. Don't we feel the same way? Don't we feel that being a member is part of the story that we tell the world? Now, we might not want a permanent tattoo, but I have proof, as Dan has shared with me, that many of our Toastmasters have come to him and said, hey, can we get fake Toastmasters tattoos? So some of you are pretty close to this level of commitment, but I just want you to realize that all that everyone is tied to is the idea, the who we are, the why we matter. What makes Toastmasters special? This idea is not just for companies that make money. This idea works for nonprofits too. Livestrong is one of the most successful cancer research fundraisers in history. And there are people who are willing to make the same type of commitment to Livestrong that they are to Apple or their country or anything else, because the Livestrong story is their story. And none of them try to quantify it. They never did any research to find out that Lance Armstrong was not a philanthropist until he got cancer. But this is an organization that was basically funded by Nike. You get it, but it's not the perfect nonprofit. But 70 million people around the world have donated to it. Again, it's the idea. It's what it means to be affiliated with Livestrong that matters so much. We're trying to accomplish the same objective. We have a beautiful history. We make great things out of great people. We need the same story to tell, though. We really the same accomplishment. Now, your question is probably, all right, fine, I get it. I know that we want to be a brand, but where does that brand sort of matter in the way that we teach, the way that we talk to the world? Well, the ways that we talk to the world come in three forms. The first form is usually called advertising. It's like us sort of screaming at everybody and saying, hey, you should join us. Come see what our organization is and why we matter. So advertising usually takes the form of, let's say, like a sign on the side of the freeway, or a commercial on television, or maybe something you hear on the radio, or you're flipping through a magazine and you see a picture. You can see that all three of the examples on the screen are nonprofits. What I'm basically sharing with you here is that all of these commercials, all of these advertisements are trying to do the same thing. They're trying to indirectly connect with everybody. I mean, they basically, if you're flipping through a magazine, how much time do you spend looking at an ad? I mean, you might spend half of a second flipping past it. So you can see that it's kind of indirect. But what they do is they constantly repeat the message over and over and over again so that you never can forget it. That's what advertising is designed to do. Just get the idea out there. Get the idea out there and share it with as many people as possible. Marketing, though, marketing is totally different. Marketing is the kind of stuff that you hand to people who have already expressed interest. They're like, hey, yeah, I'm interested in buying that car, or I'm interested in joining that organization. Do you have more information? Yes, here's a brochure, right? Those types of devices, those types of communication devices are called marketing, whether it's a direct mail program or an event or a brochure. All of those things are marketing tools because they don't just give them to anybody. They give them to people who have expressed interest, and therefore it's a direct type of communication. Like when someone comes to a Toastmasters club, we deserve to give them a brochure. They have directly engaged us, and we want to directly communicate to them. So, of course, we also do marketing at Toastmasters. What about the last piece, though? What about public relations? I know you've heard this phrase, but no one has ever explained it to us. And literally it means to relate to the public. And how do we relate to the public? Well, what we do is we get people together that already like us. Our donors and our members and our staff and people who have donated resources, like all of those people, they're already engaged, right? They're employees, they're members, et cetera, as I've said. So we might have a company meeting, or we might send out an annual report or a newsletter or have our annual conference. But the interesting thing about all of those activities, everybody who participates in those activities is already caring about us. They already have chosen to participate. So why do we want to communicate to them? Well, we want to communicate to them, to you, because you're the best spokespeople there are. The people who already love the story are the best communicators. They help us relate to the public. So their job, your job, is to be the third party that validates Toastmasters. When you go to a party and you tell people where you spend your personal time and you say Toastmasters, you are a credential. You make us valid. Public relations is the attempt to influence an audience by using a third party, an editor of a magazine who already knows what Toastmasters is, you as a member. So the reason why all of these things are so fun and so fantastic is because they actually work together. Like you don't just do one of them, you kind of do all three. You do need to introduce yourself through advertising. You do need to give people brochures and such. And you do need to make sure that your members know what story to tell. But the question is, what story do we tell? And that's where this branding thing comes in. This branding thing is really about what our Toastmasters story is. What are we going to do to make sure that when the world hears from us, they hear exactly what we want them to hear, and they remember exactly what we want them to remember? Well, what Dan and I are sharing today is this for Toastmasters. What are we going to share? What are we going to do? Well, in order to share with you the answer, we've got to share with you the research. So Dan is going to take you through all the work that we did to make sure that the answer that we created was right. Not only right, but real, and represents everything that we've always been and everything that we plan to do in the future. So now I'd like to ask Dan to take you through some of that research to show you how hard we worked.
Sasha, thanks very much, and thanks everyone for sticking with us through this. We've now had a great introduction to branding. For those of you who have ever considered attending a graduate level branding class, that is the first 30 minutes of your first class. So thanks, Sasha, for that. One of the things Sasha mentioned was talking about the Toastmasters story and how we express ourselves. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. I'd like you to raise your hand, even though I can't see you, if you agree with me. Are Toastmasters creative? And I hope you all raised your hands. We know that Toastmasters are creative. And over the last 76 years, 87 years, Toastmasters members have done an amazing job of recreating how Toastmasters is expressed, both visually and in writing. The problem with that is that it's created an inconsistent message in the way we communicate the organization to the outside world and even to the inside world of Toastmasters members. By 2008, it became very clear that this creativity and customization had evolved to the point where our brand was suffering from a lack of perception control and recognition both among our members and prospective members. So in 2009, the board of directors directed the organization to analyze the Toastmasters brand and determine whether or not a refresh was necessary. In late 2009, as I mentioned to you, we selected Innovation Protocol, and we began the market research project to answer those questions. Well, Innovation Protocol joined with us. We did a thorough review of all the Toastmasters materials that we could make available to them, both items produced here at World Headquarters and items that have been created by members, clubs, and districts around the world. Interviews were conducted with members and prospective members from around the world, with club and district leaders, and with members of the board of directors. Market research was done at conferences, at club meetings, at club leader trainings, at district leader trainings, and the result was a confirmation of what we thought when we began, that there was significant fragmentation. After that, we looked outside and began a project to analyze the competition. Now, with Toastmasters, there's no one that is real, direct, exact competition for us, and our primary competitor could perhaps be categorized as time, but there are other organizations that fill some of the needs that Toastmasters fills. Dale Carnegie is one, Speaking Circles is another, in other ways, the American Society for Training and Development, the National Speakers Association. And as we reviewed their materials and their websites, we came across many consistencies and even some shared consistencies in the visual systems and in the way Toastmasters is currently represented. As you look at these materials, you see that blue is a very prevalent color, that there are some earth tones, greens and yellows and oranges that are consistent as well. There was a major differentiator, though, that we realized between Toastmasters International and these other organizations. We're the only one that really focuses on both communication and leadership. If you think back for a moment to what Sasha mentioned, differentiation is a key part of branding and brand selection by consumers. So that differentiation that we work on both communication and leadership is significant, and we'll come back to that in a few minutes. Well, as we progress through our thinking and research and talking about a new brand, there's some things that we looked at within the Toastmasters organization in terms of communication flows and structures. Now, many of you are familiar with the Toastmasters inverted organization chart with the member on the top. Well, this is represented a little differently, and this more represents communication flows, with information coming from the international organization, flowing to districts, and then through districts to clubs. And sometimes information goes directly from the international organization to clubs. But in general, given our structure, we should have clear, consistent communication, both verbally and consistent visual communication. But the reality is that when we did additional research, we found that we don't. If you look at these images, you can see that the way some of our districts are represented visually and the way that clubs are represented visually varies greatly. Sometime when you get a chance, do a Google search for Toastmasters and then click images and look at the wide variety of ways that Toastmasters represents itself visually. Now, a successful brand, an organization that is on brand, the message remains the same throughout the vertical marketing channels. And you can see that we don't have a consistent visual message and certainly not a consistent verbal message in the way Toastmasters is branded and marketed. And so that provides us with some immediate recognition of what our challenges are and some great opportunities for improvement. One of these great opportunities lies when we follow what we call the path to membership. Now, as an organization, we communicate, and we just looked at some of those ways that we communicate. We have a message that we're attempting to deliver to an audience, and the message is at 100% when it leaves the organization, but by the time it intersects the audience's perception of it, that decreases significantly. And if you say maybe 10% of that message that is sent is actually received by the audience. So a large majority of that audience is also not prepared to hear from us and not prepared to comprehend what the organization is here to do. So I have another question for you. When you're talking with someone who's not familiar with our organization and you say the word Toastmasters, what happens? Now, I know that in my case, when I say Toastmasters, some people, they scrunch their eyes together, they look at me quizzically, maybe tilt their head to the side, and they wonder what I'm talking about. Well, that means that our brand is not clear and that our messaging has not reached all of the audiences that we want it to receive, that we want to receive it. So when we create a consistent brand that is stronger and more recognizable, we're going to have fewer of those quizzical looks down the road. Now let's continue to talk about the path to membership for a moment. There are three main portions of this path: exposure, introduction, and engagement. When you're thinking about a prospective member, one of the best ways and most common ways for them to hear about Toastmasters is word of mouth. And following hearing about us by word of mouth, they might receive a brochure or a flyer. We don't know if that brochure or flyer today is going to be branded, is it going to be created and representative of the organization. It might be something that someone hurried and created on their computer and printed out and handed out to them. We're not sure of the level of professionalism or certainly consistency about it. Well, that person then might think about Toastmasters and then go on the website and look to find a club. And they might find a club and decide, oh, that club meeting time and location fits my schedule. I can perhaps do that. What they don't know is if that meeting time and location is accurate. And unfortunately, many of the times and locations on the Toastmasters International website are not. Then they're going to send an email out and perhaps contact that club and await a response. During the research process, we did quite a bit of this, and we realized that many, many clubs, far too many, don't respond. And when they do respond, they respond often in a way that's not optimal. So along this continuum between exposure to the organization, attending a meeting, and eventually joining, there are many points of failure. And the stronger we make each of these points, the greater the opportunity that we'll have for success along the way. And all of this is part of this rebranding initiative. Now, as a district leader, you have a variety of opportunities to participate in and support this rebranding project. I want to let you know that the primary purpose of this is to help the organization achieve its mission, and that's what district leaders are all about as well. As this rebranding comes into effect, and as people have a clearer, more consistent picture of the organization and an easier path to membership, district goals and objectives are going to be easier to achieve. Now, that's not something that happens overnight, but we need your partnership in this so that it will work out well. You're going to be able to have a more consistent, stronger presentation when you're working with other organizations. Many of you conduct corporate visits, and we're looking forward to providing for you the materials, including PowerPoint presentations, that will help those types of events be more powerful. Most importantly of all, the benefits of Toastmasters will be communicated consistently. This increases shared understanding and global awareness of the organization. So today, many people do know what Toastmasters is, but if you ask a non-Toastmaster if they understand and know what we do, there's only a 50-50 chance that they'll give you an answer that is mostly correct. So we look forward to working with you in creating this consistent, unified message of the organization that will help us be stronger and give more people the opportunity to participate in the program. Now, we talked a few minutes ago briefly about leadership and about how Toastmasters is about both communication and leadership. Leadership is a recurring theme that has surfaced throughout this rebranding project, not one that we went in search of, but one that emerged as a significant piece of the organization. And I'm going to turn the presentation back over to Sasha to talk to us about leadership and how it's emerged as a strong part of the Toastmasters brand. Sasha?
Thank you, Dan. So I do want to remind those of you who have taken your phone off of mute, we can hear some people shuffling in the background. It's not no problem yet. I just want to make sure. So if you're not going to be speaking, please push *6 on your phone, and that will make sure that everyone can hear each other. All right, so back to the topic at hand, leadership. As I mentioned, we did quite a bit of research, and Dan took you through some of it. And as we were going about our research, we actually researched great communicators. And as we were sort of digging up those communicators, we started to realize something really interesting about almost all of them. I mean, you could pick any category, literature or politics or civil rights or business. And the thing that was so incredible was that those individuals were regarded as great leaders. Yes, that's what they were called. But if you really think about what they could do, what made them fantastic leaders was that they were absolutely wonderful communicators. And we got really excited about this research because, as Dan had mentioned, we casually always do associate Toastmasters with leadership. And we did a little bit more research, and we started to figure out that it didn't matter what industry you were in. It doesn't matter what your personal choices or your professional tribes might be. When we're talking about a leader, an influencer, a mover, they show up in every part of our lives. I mean, you could be a leader in your industry or a leader of a movement. You could be a leader of your family or a leader of your community. And when we can give those leaders a voice, that's a really incredible story to tell. No matter what industry, leaders need to have a strong voice. And if Toastmasters can be the way in which they find that voice, I think that you can agree that Toastmasters is where leaders are made. Well, we got really excited about this concept, and that ultimately led us to our destination. I'm going to be sharing with you multiple pieces of where we landed, because the brand is not just what we say. As Dan had mentioned, it's also what we look like. But I want to take you through what we say first, because what we say is going to inform how we interact and how we answer questions, how we respond to emails, etc. So in order to share with you the answer, I got to tell you what we call it in branding, because in branding we always have crazy terms for everything. Well, this really, really important story is called positioning. The position in the market, the place in the market that's exclusively Toastmasters to claim. Our story, only our story. What position in the market do we have the right to claim? So in the brand world, we call that a positioning statement. We are going to make a statement about the position in the market that is ours. So I'm going to read that to you now. And Dan is going to follow it up with a much more tactile version of it. And what I mean by that is, I am going to tell you the story, the position in the market that's ours to claim. But I don't want you to think we're ever going to put this on a sign or on the back of a business card. This is just for you and I. This is for us to share, to come to a common understanding about what our story is, and then Dan is going to share with you how we're going to use it. So here we go. I wasn't born a leader. They were all around me, though. They were in my community and at work and at school. The leaders were everywhere. They were the heads of families, and they were coaches of teams. They were my business leaders and my mentors. They were the organizational decision makers. I admired these leaders. They influenced who I was and who I was becoming because I aspired to walk in their footsteps. And so then I committed myself to becoming one of them. And finally it came to me. It wasn't just what leaders knew that enabled them to lead. They had a voice. They could tell their story. They could listen and answer. They didn't just accomplish, they communicated. So I set out to find my voice, learn to process ideas in the midst of discussion, or train myself to listen attentively, to learn to give feedback and accept it. I need to organize and plan and deliver and follow up. I needed a place where all the ingredients were there and someone would guide me along the way. I found that place. I found a community of learners and the path to leadership. I am a leader, and I was made. Toastmasters International, where leaders are made.
Sasha, thank you very much for that. I think that I can speak for all of us when I say that when we hear those words or read those words, we look into ourselves as members of Toastmasters and we see our experiences, but most importantly, we feel what we felt and we feel the Toastmasters experience. And that's why I refer to that as the brand personality. That is a way to express in a very clear verbal way that touches each of us what Toastmasters is, what we stand for, how our process works. Now, that's going to be the foundation of a lot of the writing that we do wrapped around this new Toastmasters brand. Now, imagine that's rewritten in such a way that it's target marketed for young professionals who are 25 years old, or mature career people in their 50s, or any other target market or demographic that you can think of. We can work with that and massage it in such a way that it appeals perfectly for that audience. Now, here's another interpretation of that that's just a little bit different, but describes the organization overall. For more than 86 years, Toastmasters International has been recognized as the leading organization dedicated to communication and leadership skill development. Through its worldwide network of clubs, each week Toastmasters helps more than 250,000 men and women of every ethnicity, education level, and profession build their competence in communication so they can gain the confidence to lead others. The world needs leaders. Leaders head families, coach teams, run businesses, and mentor others. These leaders must not only accomplish, they must communicate. By regularly giving speeches, gaining feedback, leading teams, and guiding others to achieve their goals in a supportive atmosphere, leaders emerge from the Toastmasters program. The organization answers a new generation's plea. Where can I go to become a better communicator and ultimately a stronger leader? Toastmasters continues to build on its legacy by providing a strong foundation for the future. Its proven educational program continually evolves to address the needs of the world's communicators and leaders, both today and tomorrow. Toastmasters members learn to tell their story. They listen and answer. They plan and lead. They give feedback and accept it. Through our community of learners, they find their path to leadership. Toastmasters International, where leaders are made. Now, I can't hear you applauding, but I do think that I think that you're applauding. I hope you are. I hope that resonates with you, just like the personality statement did. Let's transition now away from the verbal and move into the visual system. Now, you'll see appearing on your screen two new visual parts of the system. The one on the left is the word mark, Toastmasters International, and on the right is the logo. Here's the moment you've all been waiting for, the much anticipated presentation of the logo. Now, the logo is the foundation of the visual system, and as you can see, it's not a complete departure from the globe emblem, but is rather an evolution. You can see that the countries have been removed, but we're still implying a global presence, and the tilt of the longitude lines implies motion. We've used strong colors intentionally, moving away from the lighter blues and yellows of the past. The fonts are modernized, and as you can see, this can be used in two ways, lifting the word mark off of the complete logo or using the entire logo by itself. Now, we don't ever use the globe without the word mark on top of it. A question that you may be asking, for those of us who have been around for a while and have grown to love the globe emblem, is, are we abandoning that? And the answer is no. It will continue to be the Toastmaster seal, and you'll see it on the insides and on the back of many of our documents as a piece of strength that talks to our history and our present and the legacy of the organization. But the new logo and the word mark will be at the forefront of the visual part of the new brand. Now, of course, there are other pieces to this. One of the most important is the color system that's being used. and we'll go back to Sasha and let him talk with us about the color system. Sasha?
Thanks, Dan. All right, so let's talk about the color system, and I think that you probably have noticed that throughout the presentation, there actually has been a system in place. Well, that was the intention. We wanted you to sort of experience the new brand while it was all unfolding. And what's important to realize about the colors is that every brand that you can ever think about absolutely has colors associated with it, right? I say Coca-Cola and you think red. I say UPS and you think brown, right? Well, what do we want people to associate with our organization? Well, there are important things for us to consider. For example, we're an international organization, so we don't want our colors to look like the flag of any particular country. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, looking at the colors on the screen right now, could you associate this with any government, any religion? It'd be impossible because we actually did the research to make sure that this color combination was only ours to be had. Not only did we make sure that it was differentiated, we also wanted to make sure that it had international relevance, like it wasn't too drastic of a personality. Certain colors in certain countries are not well received, so we wanted to make sure that no one was insulted by the colors we chose. So the question you need to ask yourself is not, do I like these colors? The question we need to ask ourselves is, are these colors right for Toastmasters? And I'm happy to tell you that they are. They're not only right, they're so different and so personal that they're going to come together and create some of the most proud tools you have ever seen. Brochures and pins and all of the things that we expect from the organization. Now, you're going to be making some of these things for your own chapters and for your districts, right? You print letterhead and you make agendas, etc. But we want you to know how to do this, and so we've actually given you the color codes. And that sounds crazy, but there actually are numbers for every single color measured up to 6 million different colors. The company that created that system is called Pantone. So when you go print something for your local district, you can just bring these color codes with you to the printer, and you can tell them, oh, I need to use Pantone 442U, gray, and they'll make sure that it absolutely matches. That way we can tell a consistent visual story no matter where we are in the world. And that's going to help us create that strong, consistent visual brand. But the visual brand is not just our colors. There are a couple other components. For example, the words that we use, the letter shapes. Now, everything on this slide here is just gibberish, and it's just as an example to introduce you to the 4 primary fonts. They're called fonts, and in the artistry world, it's actually called typography. These fonts, as you've seen on your computer, are just different ways that you can format letters. Well, we don't want to always format our letters differently because then people won't know if Toastmasters is speaking. So that's why we have very particular fonts. The primary font you see at the top is called Gotham, and it was selected because of its artistic and clean nature, its universal appeal, and you can't even tell, does it look really contemporary or really old? And that gives us a lot of flexibility. The bottom font, the last one that you see at the bottom of the page, Arial, we selected that one not because we thought it was pretty, but because it's the single font that every single computer in the world has on it. So we just wanted to make sure that if we send something out to our world of members, that we do so in a way that they all can read it. So these are our typography, and actually Dan is going to introduce you to a couple more ingredients and the book that we put together to make sure that you know how to use these tools. Dan?
Thanks, Sasha. One of the very important parts of this new brand is imagery. And for the first time ever, we've created a very large library of Toastmasters-specific images that we'll be using and that will be available to clubs and districts as well for use in materials that they will create using the brand guidelines that we're going to provide to you. In these images, we have a range of ages and ethnicities. And the branded items are incorporated in the photo, so you'll see a new lectern in one of those photos and some other pieces of materials throughout. So these will all be available through the website and available for use on items that, again, districts and clubs will create. Another piece that we're introducing for the first time ever in Toastmasters is a brand manual. And in the brand manual, you'll have guidelines that will explain to you the appropriate and authorized uses of the brand and how to combine the fonts and the colors appropriately and in the right proportions to create materials that fall within these guidelines. You know, part of the questioning that we've received throughout this rebranding process is, what about my individuality? Our district has some individuality, and our clubs certainly have their own personalities. And honestly, that's something that we never want to see disappear. The uniqueness of the club environment and from club to club is something that's very special to the organization. But how we represent ourselves visually and how that's expressed both inside Toastmasters and without needs to be more consistent than it ever has been. So you'll have access to these brand manuals through something that is called a brand portal. And this is on the website, and you'll be receiving information that will lead you to this in the next couple of weeks. Now, on this brand portal, we'll have templates for different types of documents like business cards and letterheads, meeting invitations, all sorts of different things, PowerPoint templates, different videos, more explanation about branding and what this process has been, some training. Some of the webinars like this one will have been recorded and placed there, different segments that talk about the brand and leadership, frequently asked questions for club and district leaders. All sorts of things have been created and placed into this brand portal that you'll have access to. In addition to that, on the website on August 17th, there will be a brand landing page that will provide additional information and some really cool things for us. Now, just as you're participating in this webinar today, district leaders were with us, other district leaders yesterday. There are other groups that have participated in this process. A group called the Brand Ambassadors, and you as incoming district governors may have heard from them. The Brand Ambassadors are the 2010-2011 district governors, past international presidents and directors, world champions of public speaking and accredited speakers, region advisors, certainly the members of the board of directors, and then a few other selected Toastmasters from around the world. They've been through a similar type of webinar that you have tonight, and they have a lot of information. They can be a resource and a help to you as district leaders if you would like to invite them to speak at a district meeting, a division meeting, an area meeting, or even clubs can invite them to speak at club meetings to talk about this. We've prepared a presentation for them that will help them lead discussions about branding and talk about some of the things that we have tonight, the reasons behind it, the processes that were followed, and the direction that we're going as an organization with this new brand. In addition to all these sessions, there will be a special brand workshop at the International Convention this year. It will be on Wednesday morning, that Wednesday of the opening ceremonies, at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's August 17th, and you're certainly all invited to join us for that session. Let's talk a little bit about your role in this brand launch. Part of it is just to understand what's going on and understand the new positioning and personality of the brand. And we hope that we've provided the information tonight that will help you get up to speed with where we are. Another thing that we ask of you is to put this new positioning and personality into your messaging starting on August 17th. We want to create the feel of that brand personality statement in virtually all Toastmasters communications. We know that some of the PROs and webmasters are on the call with us right now, but if they weren't able to make it, let's make sure that you share this information with them, and they'll have access to the brand portal as well. Talk to your district leaders, your area and division governors, and let them know what's going on. We don't have specific training materials for them, but we will have a PowerPoint presentation that will be available to you should you choose to go into that level of detail with them. Please feel free to ask questions. We've gotten a lot of questions tonight via the GoToWebinar functionality. You can also send questions to a specific email address. It's brand, B-R-A-N-D, at toastmasters.org, and also the brand ambassadors can be a great resource for you. So the brand ambassador are helpful. We'll be releasing more information on social networks on LinkedIn and on our Facebook pages. And then there will be a place on the website again for brand ambassadors and for you to obtain more information. So we look forward to sharing this in the coming weeks. Now, let's talk about sample brand executions and the way that this branding, the visual system, has been rolled out. And with some of the photos that you saw earlier, you saw a couple of items. But let's go to this next slide, please, and it shows the new Toastmasters banner. Now, we know that there are about 13,000 clubs out there that have banners. We've been in communication talking about how to replace their old banner with a new banner. But for you as districts, we want to let you know that on the first day of district leader training at the International Convention, we'll be providing to you a new banner for your district as well as a new banner stand. So I hope you have room in your luggage to take that back with you, but you need to plan on being able to take that home. Another thing that people have asked us about and that we've planned for are new badges. Now, there are a variety of Toastmasters badges that have been available to you, and some made from scratch through the years. We've solidified the group, reduced it a little bit. There are now 5 types of Toastmasters badges. There are badges that are specific for members and club leaders, some for district leaders, others for distinguished Toastmasters, some for members of the board and other select groups like the World Champions. One of the consistent themes that you'll see running through the brand visual system is that burgundy is used to correlate with leadership, while the blue color is used to correlate more with the communication side. So you'll see that the communication type recognition badges will have more blue in them, and the leadership more burgundy, and some of them that are hybrids will have both. Toastmasters pins. Many of us like to wear Toastmasters pins. Those, too, are being upgraded. There will be pins that will be given to you, and by you I mean the district governors and lieutenant governors, at the International Convention when you go to training. We'll also provide you with new badges on that day. You can pre-order badges for the rest of your team starting in July, and then we'll ship those beginning after when the brand is launched on August 17th. But these pins will be communicating both with you and with clubs about how to obtain them and when they'll be available. One of the coolest pins that we're most excited about is the full-color member pin that you can see in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. That's one that's been very popular with some of the groups we've been able to show it to. In addition to these items, many of the printed materials, all of the printed materials will be represented in the new visual system as well. The covers of manuals and flyers and brochures and all those types of documents will be changed, and you'll begin to see those again right after the brand launches on August 17th. So the new member kits are completely rebranded, as well as the advanced manuals and competent communication and competent leadership manuals. I know that many of you do PowerPoint presentations within your district teams and as part of your leadership role, and also with people outside of the organization. So a PowerPoint template has been created that will be available to you so that wherever we are and whatever we're doing, the brand is represented consistently. One of my favorite items is a new format and look for agendas. If you think about it, each week 13,000 Toastmasters clubs meet, and literally tens of thousands of guests pick up an agenda at that club meeting. And I guess I can be fairly safe in saying that not too many of those agendas are similar. Think how amazing it will be when prospective members are able to visually see Toastmasters before they come to the meeting, and when they get to the meeting, they see the exact same representation of the organization there. In addition, a lot of websites are going to need to change. Now, the Free Toast host site that clubs use, the templates there are going to be rolled over. For districts, a templated-based website will be available for you if you'd like to use it through Free Toast host fairly soon. And for WordPress, another popular website program. So those will all be coming, as well as specifications in the brand manual, so should you decide to continue to have a customized district website. Stationery is another item. I know we all get very excited about our Toastmasters business cards as our leadership roles change from year to year. So templates there will be available on the brand portal as well for you to use, and the specific color specifications to make sure that your printer gets them just right. So we appreciate your cooperation in using these materials and in creating the single consistent message of Toastmasters around the world, both inside and outside the organization. Now, one final thing. You've heard us say a couple of times tonight, Toastmasters where leaders are made. And this new phrasing is the new tagline that will represent the organization worldwide starting on August 17th. It's different from a theme. This is an enduring message of who we are today. It's not going to change from year to year, but it can and will change when we believe that the message no longer resonates with our membership or with our prospective members. So feel free to use that, but please, again, don't share the way that the emblem or the word mark or the logo or the word mark look or this tagline. Don't use them on anything before August 17th when the official launch occurs. So we appreciate that, appreciate your confidentiality and your discretion throughout this process, and certainly your patience tonight as we've gone through about an hour of this call so far. Well, we've gotten many questions from you along the way, as I mentioned. And now we're going to take a few minutes and open up to questions that you may have and hopefully some answers. So, again, if you'd like to unmute your phone, you can press #6. And if you'd like to ask a question, please state your name, perhaps your district number and where you're located for those who don't know the geography that relates to district numbers, and then I'll call on you and you. Any questions?
Hello. Yes. Hello, my name is Kiminari Azuma, District 76 Public Relations Officer and Webmaster.
Yeah.
Well, you are talking about the free toast host thing, but because of the noise, I couldn't hear, when the new template will be released. So could you please address when the new free toast host template will be released to the public?
Yes, that will be on August 17th. Because as soon as that template is released, it will be able to go live on their website, and we don't want any of those to happen before the 17th of August.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bill Greenham from District 55.
Yes, Bill from Texas with an Australian accent.
Correct. Now, obviously, we can't give too much away between now and August the 17th, but a lot of us are going to get business cards and things like that produced. Are we at least allowed to use the colour scheme for our business card?
Well, what you can do is get your business cards printed and keep them in a nice little box and keep that box closed until the 17th. So what we don't want you to do is use anything that's less than a complete brand.
Mm-hmm.
So my recommendation is that you hold off on distributing any business cards for next year until August 17th. Now, if you have a meeting in July and you desperately need to hand something out, please don't use any part of the new branding on it.
Okay. No, I just want to clarify, that was all.
Good question. Thank you.
Okay.
This is Essie.
Yes, good afternoon. It's Annette Fenton here from District 72. I just wondered, our second language here in New Zealand is Māori. Is there any way we can encompass we usually put Māori as a second influence on everything we do, or try to do. Is there any opportunity to incorporate, even locally, some Māori, our Māori language, which is a taonga, part of our identity, if you like?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I don't think I have an answer for you tonight.
Right.
Official language of the organization, but we also have some materials available in different languages. I can put you in touch with someone. If you could just send a quick message to that brand at toastmasters.org email address, then someone will get back and you can chat about this.
And the other reason I'm saying this is because we're trying to incorporate more Māori into Toastmasters. And always the barrier has been that they don't feel they're listened to or encompassed within the organisation. And as with PRO, District PRO now, I want to try and change that if I can.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who's next?
Hello, David Fisher here, PR from District 70, Sydney, Australia.
Yes, David.
Just a question about it sounds a little bit scratchy when you were mentioning it. It was about the language WordPress and the templates in general for the district websites. We are going to be going through a website redesign. And I was just wondering what was said about the templates. Should we actually be using the free Toast host for the district website? And how far do these templates go as far as can we use Joomla, WordPress, or whatever language with them?
Well, we're going to have a specific WordPress template. There are also templates that are currently being developed for Free Toast Host. Now, there are some district websites vary a great deal in terms of sophistication. So if you have a very sophisticated website, you'll probably want to use the brand manual and then follow those guidelines and apply them to a redesign of your website. Our team is certainly ready, willing, and able to consult with you all throughout that process.
Good. And the manual's out on, you said, on the 17th of August as well, or before?
The manual will be available to you before that, but certainly please don't publish anything, either in print or on a website or on a blog or anything else that contains any of the branded items or images before August 17th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, this is Catherine Cardnudo from District 6 in Minnesota, USA. You had mentioned that there is an agenda that you'd like all the clubs to use. What does a club do if they don't have access to a color printer?
Many of the items that we're producing and putting on the brand portal will be available in the full color version and also in a monochrome version. So it'll be okay if they don't have access to or use a color printer. Another thing for those of you who are outside of the U.S., many of our documents will soon be available on the brand portal in both A4 and 8.5 by 11 instead of just 8.5 by 11. So.
Thank you.
This is Helen from District 2 in Seattle, Washington. Did you cover the tattoos in the branding so that we can now get our Toastmaster tattoo?
Well, that's a fascinating question, and one that was very popular in the text questions that were being asked. Apparently, there's a rumor that I have a new brand tattoo, and when I see you at the convention, you're more than welcome to ask me about that.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, this is Essie from District 81, and I just wanted to know, it appears to me that communication is not a focus in our messaging anymore. Am I correct in thinking that?
I'll say no. I will continue to be a primary focus in our messaging. It's not in the tagline, but it is perhaps the most important core piece of what Toastmasters is and does. So we're not going away from communication at all. Leadership has emerged as a greater part and a stronger piece, but communication is still the backbone.
Thank you.
This is Lindy Sinclair in District 57, Northern California.
That's Lindy.
Slightly facetious question, but what do we do with the current district banners? Are we supposed to burn them?
Well, I've seen a lot of district banners in my time, and some of them do need to be burned. But I don't know that you must burn them all. Should you choose to do that, I'd have an appropriate ceremony. And please send photos to us.
Thanks, Dan and Sasha.
You're welcome.
Hi, Emma Frost, District 64, Manitoba, Canada.
Yes, Emma.
Hi, I think I misunderstood. Are we expected to get our clubs to use that specific agenda now?
Well, what we're going to do is communicate with clubs, and the club leaders have an opportunity to participate in these types of webinars going forward. So what we would expect you to do is ask them to get on the brand portal and poke around and become familiar with and participate as much as they possibly can. We don't think that, well, we know realistically that this is not an overnight turning of a switch, that it will take quite a while for this to propagate throughout the organization. But I would certainly love to see the day when all clubs are using a consistent format and look to an agenda. Now, some clubs do things in different sequences and have different meeting roles than others don't, so we're not trying to take the uniqueness out, but simply to provide more consistency.
Okay, because a lot of our clubs have used their agenda as part of the meeting theme, and they're not going to be able to do that if they have such a rigid template.
Yeah, and meeting theme is an interesting cultural thing that is fairly unique to your district, and some districts around the world, but in other places the concept of a meeting theme doesn't exist. So.
Hello?
So there's not going to be a problem if we don't use the agenda. It's just going to be encouraged to use the agenda.
Well, there's not going to be brand police that comes around and requires everyone to absolutely use everything all the time. No, but we certainly expect the district leaders to support that type of, to strongly support branding efforts. What people ultimately choice.
Hi, this is Barry Coots in District 72.
Yes.
Question: as the launch of the brand is coming out after the current round of club officer training, will there be material coming out from World Headquarters for the mid-year club officer training covering the new branding?
Yes. Yes, there will be an awful lot of material coming out and some that can be used during the mid-year club officer training.
Hi.
SC again from District 81.
From District. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. In learning about the branding, one of the clubs actually asked whether or not there will be a special pricing on club banners. Is Toastmasters International considering any kind of facility for clubs to change their banners?
Yes, absolutely. We do have some pricing in place. I don't have it at my fingertips now, but if I remember correctly, that extends through October to provide some rapid incentive for clubs to make this transition.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, this is Azuma from District 76 again. Are you going to change the Toastmasters Toastmaster magazine in some way to apply these changes?
Yes, thanks for the question. The Toastmaster magazine will also go through a rebranding process in a couple of months.
Could you tell us how you are going to make change?
No, you're going to have to wait until you see it.
All right. Okay.
Robert Hinton, District 5.
Yes, District 5.
Quick question. We do newsletters a lot in this district. Is there a template for newsletters?
I'm not sure that, yes, I'm getting a nod that there is a template. So when you get to the brand portal, you'll be able to see those types of things, as well as looking in the brand manual and seeing the overall guidelines on how to construct and use the different visual elements.
Thank you.
Phil Greenham again from District 6.
Yes, Phil, go ahead.
I'm a bit concerned about the Toastmaster pins. Toastmaster pins are not going to be available in the new format until after August 17th. We've got a lot of people that are going to be purchasing pins for recognition and things like that in the interim. I'm just trying to balance clubs spending money between now and August 17th.
Yeah. We've actually built that in as part of the plan. There are some items that are no longer available for sale right now. Club banners are one of them. Badges are another. And I believe that pins are part of that as well, to keep people from spending money and then them to spend it again in just a few weeks. So
I know that many of you have places to go from the messages that I'm seeing. Thank you so much for joining us for this call and this webinar. We appreciate your time and the time and certainly the influence that you're going to exercise between now and August. Thanks to everyone from around the world again for being with us during this time. We'll see you at the International Convention, if not before. Good night.